6 words stopped my daughter's wedding. This ceremony can't continue. Not today. If you're listening, tap like, subscribe, and tell me which city you're hearing this from. I want to see how far this one travels. Church bells carry in winter, the way truth carries in a small town. Slowly at first, then all at once. St. Bridget's glows on the corner, stained glass lit from within, guests drifting inside in navy coats and borrowed shawls. I stand under the bare oak and fix the pins in my daughter's veil. Lily holds still, lips trembling, eyes bright the way they were when she was 8, and begged me to let her stay up past midnight on Christmas Eve. Breathe, I whisper. She nods, breathes, laughs nervously. If I pass out, just pretend it's part of the plan. Please don't, I say. I didn't practice catching brides. We don't talk about her father. We never did. I told her a version of the truth once. He left when she was 3, and I kept the rest in the drawer where you keep scissors and secrets. Inside, the quartet warms up. Pew bows wait like small clouds. The priest, Father Gabriel, with kind eyes and steady hands, meets my gaze, and I feel a strange comfort, the calm of a man who knows storms and still opens doors. I take my seat. The organ breathes, the doors open. There's my girl, white silk and freckles, and the walk she's had since her first school play. Careful, brave. Daniel, her fiancé, is already crying. It's what I liked about him first, the way his face never hid what his heart was doing. They reach the altar. We're halfway to rings when Father Gabriel lifts his book, looks up, and says the line from all the movies. If anyone knows a reason these two... A voice cuts the air like a pane of glass breaking in another room. I do. The back doors open, winter spills in, and with it, a tall man with grey at his temples and regret in his eyes. He doesn't look left or right. He looks at the altar like a swimmer who sees shore too late. I know that walk. Time didn't take that from me. Michael, I say, small enough that only my bones hear it. He stops close enough to touch the first step, turns, and finds Lily, the way a man looks for daylight when a tunnel feels endless. I'm sorry, he says to her first. I should have come sooner. I should have come when you were 3 and drew a blank space where a father should be. Lily frowns, the way you frown at a puzzle with too few pieces. Do I know you? He swallows. I'm your father. The bouquet slips, petals skitter across stone like little moons. Father Gabriel lowers the book. Sir, he says, this is a sacred moment. I know. Michael's voice is rough. That's why I can't stay quiet. He turns to Daniel. This wedding can't continue. 6 words. The church stops breathing. Daniel steps forward, jaw tight. You need to leave. I wish I could, Michael whispers. He reaches into his coat, pulls out a lab envelope, the ugly kind you recognize even from a pew away. His hand shakes. After I left, I made a life with a woman who deserved better. She died. She left a letter. I sent a test. I didn't believe it until the numbers didn't blink. He holds up the page. Daniel, you're my son. A glass shatters somewhere. Someone says no to nobody at all. Lily turns to me. Her eyes ask the oldest question. Is this real? It's true, I say, and the truth is a hot wire that burns going up and down. Everything tilts. The quartet freeze. The organist covers his mouth with his sleeve. Father Gabriel lifts both hands as if pressing chaos back into the earth. Pause, he says gently. We will take a pause. Lily walks, doesn't run, down the side aisle into winter. I follow. On the back steps, she breathes into her hands the way she did when we waited for the school bus in 2nd grade. I hate you, she says without heat, without teeth, like a stitch pulled through skin. I know, I say. You can. What do I do now? You don't make forever choices on a shock day, I say. You drink water and let your body catch up. And Daniel, she whispers, let him be a person, I say, not a symbol of pain. When we go back in, the church is islands. His family talk in low lawyer voices. Ours offer mints and incorrect Bible verses. Father Gabriel stands at the altar with both palms down, the way men who have seen storms hold tables steady. I cannot continue, he says, voice quiet and sure. Not as a punishment. As mercy that hurts, he says a blessing for calm. No music plays. Someone opens a window. Real cold replaces the pretend version from the air vents. Michael looks at me once, like a man who needs directions on a road he burned down. I look away. That night is soup at my apartment. Shoes kicked under the table. A veil tucked into a shoebox. Daniel drops off bagels and leaves fast, like his arms might say something his mouth shouldn't. Lily sleeps on the sofa, hand under her cheek. I sit at the table and make a list of practical things you can do when your heart is a dropped plate. Counselor names, legal steps, new locks. At midnight, a text from Jake, my old student, now a cop. Here, if you need a ride, or silence, or bad coffee. I write back, thank you. It's more than gratitude, it's oxygen. Healing is errands and calendars and refusing to turn an aisle into a shrine. We start counseling. We learn which grocery shelves to skip. Bridal magazines glitter like landmines. Lily cries in session 3 and then again in session 5. Both times look like thaw, not collapse. Daniel calls twice a week. Weather talk, cat updates. He sends a letter that starts, I don't know how to write this without breaking something, and Lily doesn't open it for 6 days. When she does, she doesn't show me. Some rooms aren't for mothers. Michael disappears. Then a plain envelope arrives in his handwriting with a note. I stayed gone to keep you safe. It didn't work. I'm trying to leave fewer wounds behind me than I make. I don't share it. Some apologies are for drawers, not walls. December returns like it always does. Lights on porches, frost on trash can lids, the ache of songs that remember the versions of us we miss. Christmas Eve, we bundle up and walk. I don't plan to pass the Whitman's house, but grief has a sense of direction. The windows glow. Laughter spills. Through the glass, I see Daniel's mother, perfect hair and a glass of red. She tips like it's a microphone. We're almost past when the door opens and a cold slice hits the street. A woman's voice, Daniel's sister, floats out sharp. She dodged a bullet, she says. Imagine the mess. Kids with whatever that is. I mean, it's tragic, but also a shrug in her tone. Lucky. The laugh that follows is the kind old movies used for villains. I don't push the door open. I don't shout. I put one hand on Lily's sleeve. Keep walking, I whisper. She doesn't. She steps back onto the Whitman stoop and rings the bell with a steady finger. Daniel opens it. For a second, the old softness crosses his face. Then the new pain wipes it clean. We were just leaving, Lily says, but I heard my name shaped like garbage. Lily, he starts. Tell them, she says, voice calm. Tell them I'm a person. He turns, an ache in his shoulders, and says into the living room, no more. His mother blinks, smile pinned. No more what, darling? No more talk about Lily like she isn't a human being standing in the cold, he says, and I watch him choose the hard thing in his own house. No more practice cruelty. If you want me here, you speak with kindness. If you can't, I'll go. Silence. The kind that sizes a man and decides if he's serious. His sister laughs. Oh, please. Daniel steps onto the porch, closes the door behind him, and leans against it like he's holding back a wave. I'm sorry, he says to Lily, and I'm not asking to fix anything. I'm just saying I'll stand between you and people who forget how to be decent. Bittersweet is a taste I know well. It sits on your tongue and teaches you patience. We walk. Snow takes our footprints, rewrites them as if it can help. On the corner, a group from the shelter pass out cocoa to people who aren't used to being looked in the eye. Lily tugs my sleeve. Can we... Yeah, I say, and we spend an hour refilling cups and saying Merry Christmas to people who flinch and then smile like the phrase is a blanket. At home, I light the cheap candle we use every year and slice the store pie too thick. Lily takes one bite and laughs. It's terrible, she says, which is true. We eat 2 slices each anyway. I don't teach taekwondo anymore, but I still move furniture the way you do when you know how to use your weight without hurting your back. Sofa to wall, bookshelf where the cracked plaster won't notice. We make space for a small tree with 4 ornaments and a paper crane she made in 3rd grade. At midnight, the bell from St. Brigid's rolls across the roofs. I think about the day she was born, the hospital's fluorescent hum, how quiet the hallway felt when I first walked her to the window and said, "We're a team." I think about the day her father left and the way the door sounded when the last hinge let go. I think about a priest saying 6 words that saved my daughter from a worse pain later. We don't wrap presents this year, we write notes. On a blue sticky, Lily writes, "Thanks for not letting me choose on a shock day." On a yellow one, I write, "Thanks for staying when it was easier to disappear." We stick them to the fridge. It looks like a cheap art installation. It looks like grace. By spring, Lily smiles in the regular places. Checkout line jokes, neighbor's dog with a sweater, the way the sun hits the microwave clock and makes it look holy. We keep seeing Father Gabriel, not for confession, and not because he asks us to, but because some voices calm a room without telling it to hush. He listens more than he talks. When he does talk, it sounds like warm bread. One evening, he says he has a piece of mail for us. He found it tucked in the chapel box, no postage, just our names in a hand I know almost as well as my own. We open it at the little side pew by the lilies. Lily, I don't ask for anything. I don't deserve to. I'm trying to tell the truth before this body decides it's had enough. I left to keep you safe and turned danger into a shadow that followed you anyway. Daniel didn't know. I know you believe him, but I want to say it out loud so it's on me and not on you. If you never want to see me, I understand. If you ever do, the bench by the bus stop where you used to count cars is still there. I go there Wednesdays at 4. I wait 30 minutes, and then I go home. Michael. We sit a long time with the letter on the pew between us. The stained glass throws blue light across her hands. I'm not ready, Lily says. Okay. I don't know if I'll ever be. Okay. We don't go that week, or the next. On the 3rd week, a storm crawls in from the reservoir and breaks over town at 3:45. At 4, I drive past the bus stop on the way to the pharmacy. Not to check, just because that's the route. He's there in the rain with a red umbrella, like a comic book prop and a paper bag on the bench. He looks thinner than regret. I tell myself it's good he's alive. I don't tell Lily I saw him. 2 weeks later, she says, I want to ask him one question. We go together. He stands fast when he sees her, then stops, because you don't rush the person you've wounded. Her question is simple. Why didn't you say my name when you left? He closes his eyes, because speaking it out loud hurt worse than any quiet. I needed you to pick the pain that helped me, she says. He nods. I know that now. He doesn't ask for a hug. He doesn't try to be in the pictures we take of our lives. He stands at a distance and answers what she asks. He brings a paper bag with old photos that still smell like the first apartment's cheap carpet and a stuffed rabbit I threw away in a fit of cleaning when she was 9. He found it in a box he couldn't throw out. Lily doesn't take it. Not yet. He folds the bag shut and nods like he understands the long road of not yet we leave. Their first meeting ends with no big music cue, no easy line. A small mercy. Not everything needs a bow. Daniel writes again. This time there's one sentence I respect. I will wait until waiting becomes a kindness instead of a wait. He starts volunteering at the shelter we stumbled into on Christmas Eve. He fixes a busted coffee maker and a warped door. He keeps his head down. People notice when quiet men do steady work. On a soft June night, the town hosts a block cinema. Old movie on a bedsheet, popcorn in paper bags. Lily sits on the curb with a soda and nods when Daniel settles 2 feet away. In the dark, they laugh at the same joke. She doesn't move closer. He doesn't either. When the credits roll, they both help roll the sheet and pick up cups. On the walk home, she says, I felt okay tonight, as if she's afraid the feeling will hear and run. That's a win, I say. Small, she says. Small keeps the lights on, I say, and she smiles like she knows exactly what I mean. Small towns don't need gavels. They have group chats. It starts with a blurry photo from the block cinema. Lily and Daniel sitting 2 feet apart on the curb, soda between them like a chaperone. Someone posts it with a caption trying to be clever and ending up mean. Shares stack up, comments slither in. So she's fine now? Guess the trauma didn't stick? Men always pay the price. Poor Daniel. Women are dramatic. I watch it happen the way you watch a storm map creep over your county. First a green smear, then yellow, then red. I want to fight every comment one by one. I want to delete the town. Instead, I turn off my phone and make tea, then walk it to Lily's room. She sits cross-legged on the rug, laptop closed. I already stopped reading, she says before I can speak. Good, I say. They don't get your eyes. I want to make a statement, she says. Why? She thinks. Because silence feels like I'm letting them build a story in my name. I nod. Then write what you'd say to your best friend if this was happening to her. No defense. Just truth. She writes 3 lines with a steadiness that surprises me. I'm not a headline. I'm a person healing at a human speed. Please be kind in public and quiet in private. That's all I ask. She posts it, then logs off. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks you control. 2 hours later, Father Gabriel adds his voice. Not an essay, not a sermon, just a short post on the parish bulletin. Friends, we will never know the full weight other people carry. Let's leave space for mercy. If you can't think what to say nothing. Silence can be polite. He disables comments. Bless that man. Not everyone listens. A woman at the grocery whispers near the oranges, not noticing I'm behind her. If it were me, she says, I'd hide. I step forward, pick up a lemon, and say, if it were you, I'd bring soup. She startles, cheeks red, then says, you're right. Small victory, aisle 3. That night, Jake drops by with a bag of potting soil and 2 ceramic planters shaped like owls. Plants don't read comments, he says. They just grow if you give them light. Lily smirks. That's the corniest thing I've heard this month. It's free, he says. No charge. We repot a pothos and a spider plant on the kitchen table. Fingers dirty. Laughter easy. The apartment smells like wet soil and something else that feels like a room opening. The next week, a letter arrives at the bookstore addressed to the woman who didn't get to walk the aisle. Lily opens it behind the counter, hand tense. Inside is a short note, signed Dawn, with a phone number and a line. It took me years to leave. If you ever want to talk to someone who won't try to make it tidy, call. There's no pity in it. There's respect. Lily tucks it in her pocket. Maybe someday, she says. The town quiets, not because it understands, but because gossip gets bored when it isn't fed. We keep our habits. counselling on Tuesdays, walks on Thursdays if the weather doesn't bite, Sunday sometimes at the little chapel by the lighthouse where the wind sings through the seams. One night as we leave the chapel, Daniel is waiting at the bottom of the steps with an apology that shows up before his mouth speaks. He does not ask to walk us home. He asks if he can fix the squeaky hinge at the bookstore because it's driving customers away. Lily looks at me. I look at her. She says, "Bring oil." "Not flowers." He smiles. "Yes, ma'am." He fixes that hinge like it's an oath. We go to sleep that night with one less squeak in our lives. Progress is sometimes measured in noises that stop. Then Wednesday comes, and with it, the bench. Michael waits with his red umbrella and a brown paper bag on his lap. He doesn't wave when we pull up. He stands, careful, as if a quick move might spook us. Lily sits at one end of the bench. I stand near the bus sign pretending to read a route I know by heart. "Why didn't you fight for us?" she asks. He rubs his brow. "Because I didn't know how to fight the right thing. I only knew how to run. It hurt," she says. Flat. A weather report. "I know," he says, and the words are sanded down to humility. He passes her the bag. Inside, a family photo with frayed edges. Me laughing in a kitchen. Baby Lily grabbing a wooden spoon, his arm around us both. It hurts like touching a hot kettle by mistake. "I'm not asking for permission to be forgiven," he says. "I'm asking for a chance to return what I can. Money I owe. Stories I owe. My name on the paper trail that should be clear." "Paper trail for what?" I ask. "The lab took my sample again," he says. "For the city record. So there's no doubt. For you. For Daniel. For anyone who needs the truth written down where it can't be argued." He hands me a sealed envelope with the city seal. I don't open it. Not here. Some realities don't need air right away. Lily stands. "I'll see you next Wednesday," she says, which is neither promise nor threat. It's a place to put your feet. We drive home without the radio. At a red light, Lily speaks. "I don't love him," she says, "but I don't want him to die thinking his last attempt at being decent didn't count." "That sounds like mercy," I say. "Not quite," she says. "More like optics for my own mirror." I grin despite myself. "You always did have good phrases." "Got them from you," she says, and we both know that isn't entirely true, but it's sweet, and we let it stand. Summer leans in. The bookstore stays open late on Friday nights. We host readings and small music sets. People come because stories and songs are how towns stop being a jury and start being neighbours again. One Friday, a 20-something kid with shaky hands reads a poem about his father, then cries and says into the mic, "I'm okay." The room claps. Lily squeezes my hand, I think. This is the right courtroom for some things. By August, Lily and Michael have a rhythm. No hugs, no revisions of history, no easy lines. She brings old photos and asks dates. He brings receipts and tries to set his own record straight. He stops drinking. It shows in his eyes first, then in his posture. He looks like a man who has finally decided to carry his own weight, but bodies send bills for old debts. In September, he coughs until the sound worries birds. In October, he looks yellow around the edges. In early November, he calls from a number I don't recognize. "It's the clinic," he says. "They're keeping me for a while." Lily and I go. The ward smells like lemon cleaner and boiled pasta. He sits in a chair by the window, thin in a way that steals heat from a room. He smiles because he's embarrassed to be seen like this. "You don't have to stay long," he says. "We'll stay the full visiting hours," Lily answers, a nurse in her own right when care needs firmness. He tells us the facts he can bear to say out loud. I hear the ones he can't in the spaces between words. He does not ask for miracles. He asks for the radio to be turned down because the ads make him feel like the world is someone else's. We bring him soup in contraband Tupperware and the nurses pretend not to notice. On the second week, Daniel shows up with a stack of paperbacks, mysteries and old westerns, and slides them quietly onto the window ledge. He doesn't stay. On the third week, Jake stops in on his break and tells a dumb traffic story that makes Michael laugh until he coughs. Strange fellowship blooms in rooms where politeness has to sit down so kindness can stand. One afternoon, a social worker asks about next steps and uses words that make Lily stare hard at the speckled floor. I take the form and say, "We'll figure it out." Later, in the parking lot, she leans on the car and says, "I can't be his daughter and his case manager." "You don't have to," I say. "We'll divide the labor. I'll make the calls. You give what your heart can safely give." She nods. "Okay." Michael declines faster than the doctors predicted. He writes letters on a yellow legal pad with slow care, like each line is a fragile bridge. One is for Daniel. One is for Lily. One is for me. He gives them to Father Gabriel to hold, because some envelopes need a steady drawer. In the last week, Lily asks to sit alone with him. I wait in the hall and watch the second-hand chew circles. When she steps out, her face is a kind of clear I haven't seen since she was small and sweaty after a school race. She hands me the edge of her sleeve, and I tie the loose thread like a ritual. "What did you say?" I ask. "Not what you think," she sees. "I said thank you for the parts that were good, and I said I can't carry your apologies for you, and I said I'll be okay." She pauses. "He cried. He said he wanted to be the kind of man a priest wouldn't have to help, and then he laughed at himself for saying it." "That sounds like him," I say. "Yeah," she says, "and the word isn't love or hate, it's history." The last night comes with rain. It taps the window in a patient rhythm. Father Gabriel sits with us. He doesn't pray out loud, just holds a hand, refills water, adjusts a blanket. There's no music. There's only breath, then less, then none. When it's done, Lily leans forward and says, "I forgive the part of you that tried. It's not a ceremony, it's a sentence. It's enough." We bury him on a hill with a view of the reservoir. The service is small. Daniel reads a psalm and skips the verses that don't fit. Jake stands in the back with his cap in his hands like he's at parade rest. I say very little, then a little more, then stop. On the walk down, Lily takes my arm. "I don't want this to be my main story," she says. "It doesn't have to be," I answer. 2 weeks later, the city record updates. The lab result sits in a file where no one can bargain with it. The past writes confirmed beside a line that used to be a rumor. Lily sleeps better. Daniel breathes steadier. And yet, in our town, some people still speak as if their version deserves the final word. We let them talk. We plant the owl pots on the windowsill and water what wants to live. Winter leans in again. At the bookstore, Lily plans a letters night, not to dead men and not to ghosts, just letters to ourselves from our kinder selves 10 years from now. People show up with shaky pens and big hearts. They seal envelopes, put names on them, hand them to Father Gabriel, who laughs and says, "I guess I run the human mail room now." When the shop closes, Daniel lingers by the door. "I'm leaving town for a bit," he says. "Just a month. A cousin needs help with a project 2 states over, and I think a change of sky will be good." Lily nods. "Thank you for telling me." "I'll be back," he says, but not like a movie hero. More like a man who knows that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is not hover. She smiles. "Bring me a keychain from a gas station. The cheaper, the better," he laughs. "Deal." After he leaves, I look at her. "How do you feel?" "Uncomplicated," she says, then amends. "Less complicated?" "That counts." She hangs the closed sign, flips off the lights, and we walk home with our shoulders touching twice by accident and once on purpose. By spring, what we have is simple and hard. A quiet apartment, a bookstore that pays its own bills, 2 owl planters thriving, a Wednesday bench that no longer hurts to see when we drive by. One morning, Father Gabriel calls. The church is replacing a window, he says, the one that cracked last winter, replacing a small plaque to honor the day we paused. Would you like a line on it? Lily thinks. Only if it's not about tragedy, she says. Make it about choosing carefully. At the dedication, the plaque reads, "When 6 words stopped a ceremony, we chose to go slow and tell the truth." No names. Just the idea. People read it and nod. The window throws new light on the aisle where my daughter once stood in white. It looks softer than I remember. I've been thinking about that aisle, how we measure life by walkways we expect to take, to altars, to judges, to desks on first days. But there are other aisles, between shelves, between friends, between old hurt and new calm. So we plan our own ceremony, not a wedding, not a funeral, not anything that needs paperwork or shoes that blister. We plan a life day at the bookstore after closing, just us and a few people who carried some of the weight. Jake with his patient hands, Father Gabriel with his soft voice, Dawn from the letter, and 3 others who showed up when we didn't ask. We move the travel books and clear a path from the door to the back where the stepladder leans. We string lights that look like tiny moons. The hinge Daniel fixed doesn't squeak once. I set out a plate of cookies that taste like childhood. There's no program. We just stand in a circle that is in a perfect shape and say what we're keeping. Jake goes first. I'm keeping the rule that when in doubt, choose the kind thing, even if it makes you look soft. Dawn says, I'm keeping my phone off when my brain starts writing stories that aren't true. Father Gabriel says, I'm keeping the habit of not needing the last word. I look at Lily. She nods. It's her room to speak. I'm keeping the part of me that believed in mornings, she says, voice clear, hands steady. I'm also keeping the right to rest when days run long. I'm keeping the bench on Wednesdays, not as a place to meet, but as a reminder that waiting can be gentle, and I'm keeping my name on my own story. She holds out 2 simple rings, one from a childhood gumball machine, one from a craft store. Nothing fancy, everything perfect. She slides one onto her own finger, the other onto mine. These aren't for marriage, she says. They're for promises to ourselves. We each speak a sentence to pair with the rings. Mine is short. I will not lie to make a day look pretty. Hers is shorter. I will not rush my heart. Father Gabriel gives us a blessing that isn't flowery. May your rooms have chairs for grief and tables for joy, he says. May your doorbell ring when help is kind. We eat cookies. We laugh at nothing. We listen to the sound the radiator makes at this hour of night and decide its music. At the end, Lily takes a felt-tip pen and writes a note for the old community board we put up by the register, the one where people leave job leads and lost cat posters and bad jokes torn from magazines. She pins a card that says, not the wishy kind, the stay and do the dishes kind. We lock up and walk home by way of the church. The new window throws light onto the steps. We sit for a minute and let our lungs slow. I think of the 6 words that once knocked the wind out of us. This ceremony can't continue, a priest said. And he was right. For that day, for that altar, for those rings. I look at my daughter and say 6 different words. This ceremony can't continue. Our way she laughs, wipes her nose with the back of her hand the way she always has, and bumps my shoulder. Let's go, she says. I'm hungry. We order dumplings from the place that still recognizes our voices on the phone. We eat on the floor because the couch is covered in laundry, and some nights you leave it there because you can. We talk about nothing. We talk about everything. We talk about the next Friday reading, and whether the owl pots need bigger homes. When we're done, I wash dishes. She dries. Our hands bump. She leaves one wet plate to air dry and doesn't apologize. I leave one spoon in the sink and don't judge myself. Progress in small units. Before bed, we stand at the fridge and add one more sticky note. We kept going. It sits crooked under the others like a badge that doesn't care about being straight. In the morning, it will look like it's always been there. If you're still with me at the end of this story, tell me where you're listening from. Tell me if your town has a bench that's seen too much and still holds. Tell me if you've ever stood in an aisle you didn't plan for and found a way to keep walking. And if tonight feels heavy, make tea. Light one small light. That's how we did it. That's how we still do.